I'm so excited because I just got my package from Opus today. So I'm gonna do a little unboxing and I'm gonna check out all the different supplies I got, and I'm very excited because there's some new brands and new supplies that I have not tried before, and that's always an exciting thing for me. Careful, careful. Always be careful with a knife. You're never really supposed to cut towards you, like I'm sort of doing right now, but that's okay. Wait, oh, this is adorable. They give you a little handwritten thank you note. That's adorable. Thank you so much for your order. We can't wait to see what you will create. Very smart, very clever. Oh, so it's like a little print that you get to hang up. That's really cute. That's really cute. Oh, see, this is why I love Opus. That's why you gotta support your local little art supply shops. Okay. Now for the goods. Oh, this is so exciting. Okay, so first, I got myself a couple of QOR Watercolours. I don't know if that's how you pronounce them, but this is a brand that I've looked at for a long time, and I've heard only really good things about it. But they're really expensive, so I bought a couple of colors that I feel like I can use with my current palette. So we'll see how I think of those. Next, I'm really excited to try. So when I first really got into the idea of being an artist, I was obsessed with this brand called Copic Markers. They're alcohol-based artist markers. And I remember my mom, she treated me to 2 of them when I was, I think in 8th grade. And that just kicked off my addiction of trying to buy every single Copic marker out there. I don't think I ever will achieve such a goal because there are so many, and I already don't have space for the ones I have now. And it's kind of funny because I've transitioned out of using alcoholic markers quite a bit, and I've transitioned to being predominantly a painter, specifically watercolor. So I try to still enjoy using my Copic markers when I'm having fun, just doodling in my sketchbooks. Recently, Copic released a new brand of markers called Acrylic Markers, and essentially they're just Copic's take on acrylic paint markers. I really got into using them because I got a couple of brush paint markers from Sharpie, which I actually love quite a lot. I use those a lot for crafting. Not so much my fine art, but I still use them a lot. So I wanted to give these ones a go to see how good they are. I mean, you know, I've never been disappointed with a Copic marker brand item as of yet. I got their Vivid, so it's like their basic color set, but I know I also got a single white one as well, because white paint markers, you can use them for everything. Okay, let's see what's next. It's in a brown paper bag. Mysterious. Okay, this seems to be a mix of stuff, so we're gonna start with this. Okay, so these actually, there's gonna be quite a few of them, so I will get into that last. Next, I got this little mini mineral marbles, Daniel Smith. I think they're just like little dots so that you can swatch all the different colors. It's good for, you know, testing out the different pigments and seeing what you like. I have yet to try Daniel Smith Watercolours either, but I really love super grainy watercolors and playing with those textures, so I thought this would be a good way to test out some different colors and see if I find new pigments that I want to add to my collection. That is the end. Okay, so this is interesting packaging. These are Copic marker refills. I have, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of Copic markers. And the thing about these is they will run out of ink or they'll dry over time, right? Because they're markers. Anyone who's owned a marker knows that. But what's cool about Copic is they sell refills. Now, there's nothing too fancy about these. It's not some fancy trick. They're just refills. They're just bottles of ink, so you can refill your markers, but I bought 4 of them, so I'm going to do an art piece with just these 4 markers and my other supplies to see what I can create. This is the 4th and final refill ink. I love how cute these ones are. I know the ones that I used to buy were much bigger and they're bulkier, harder to store. These are just about the size of a Copic marker. So I mean, you know, they're still shrinking down the packaging, which is not as great, but still practical to store and to travel with, which is nice. And the last thing is the Acrylic white marker. I was getting a little nervous there because I didn't know where it was, but they've got these interesting little packaging boxes, so it's nice that they compact everything nice down and neat. I'm really excited. One of my favorite things about shopping online is when everything comes and you get to unpack it all and you get to see everything. It's always fun no matter what I buy, even if it's the most boring item of all. I mean, it's still not quite as enjoyable as going to the store itself. So the beauty of the online shopping is it keeps me in check a little bit more, but I mean, if I could choose, I would still choose to go to the store in person. But with Opus, Opus is a local brand for me. I'm on the island, Vancouver Island, and Opus is concentrated mostly in Vancouver. They also have a store down in Victoria, and I only get to go there every now and then. I don't go down to Victoria very often, and when I do, I love to go to Opus. Even when I go to Vancouver, I'm like, I have to go to Opus. So, you know, Opus is essentially like a little artist heaven on earth. But if you're not in this area, you know, you can still check out Opus. They do online shipping, they do online orders, they're a great brand, but it is also worth considering seeing if you have your own local art supply store near you and supporting them, because supporting local is always the most important thing to do. Before I forget, I'm actually going to unbox the 2 QOR watercolors that I got. So I've got this color, Bohemian Green Earth. Fancy, sounds so fancy. So it's like a deep earthy green. I really love the texture that it looks like these pigments have. So I got this one, and then I also got a Payne's Gray, which, if you know me as an artist, is my favorite color, my favorite pigment. You can make anything with Payne's Gray. I have a lot of Payne's Gray watercolor already, so I don't need more, but what's different about this is it's Payne's Gray Violet, so it looks like it's a more purple take on Payne's Gray, which I love purple as well. I know I love using dioxazine violet in all of my paintings, whether it's watercolor, oil, or acrylic. It's either between those 2 colors, Payne's Gray or Violet, so I'm hoping this will be like a nice little in-between, which will be great when I have to work with limited palettes. Okay, so I've got my station set up. I'm just going to take these refills. I'm going to refill these markers. I'm also going to take some of the QOR watercolors and fill a couple of my half pans here, as well as open up and unbox all of these, just so that everything's ready and easier for me to use. And then I'm going to jump into doing a little bit of doodling and testing the art supplies and letting you know what I think about each of them. Okay, so before I go and refill these, I'm going to do a before and after swatch. This way so that you guys can see. I mean, if you've ever used a dry marker, you'll know what it looks like. But with Copic markers, as you can see, this one's clearly starting to dry up because it's not super juicy. Same thing with really any of these guys. As my markers dry up, this one's just completely dried up. In cases like these, you also would be advised to buy a new nib. This one, oh, this one has no ink whatsoever to it. As my markers dry up, I have a place for them all to go. It's like their little graveyard. Now this one's not quite dry, but I've been using it a lot lately, so as you can see, it still gets quite streaky, and it uses up the ink really fast. There you go, there you can see the nib. It uses up the ink really fast, so then the nib starts to dry out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to refill all of these and I'm going to re-swatch so you can see just how nice and beautiful Copic markers are with the right amount of ink in them. Okay, so now I have refilled my markers. Now they say each of these refills fills to about, I think it said 7 markers worth. So I don't think I put the full amount that you need to put in to completely refill your marker, but I figure because I only use them so often, it makes more sense to just fill them up a little bit. I also mentioned that you can buy replaceable nibs. That's probably one of my biggest selling points for using Copic markers. I've tried a bunch of other brands. I know there are other brands out there that also sell refills and you can change their nibs. And I know that there's more cost-friendly ones out there, but personally I've just used Copic so long. Okay, so I'm going to do a swatch of these, and then I'm also going to swatch my new paint markers, which I'm very excited to try because I've heard good reviews. Again, I'm not as familiar with paint markers as I may be with alcohol markers or watercolors, so take that with a grain of salt, but I am very much looking forward. Okay, so this is the before, and then this is the after. See how much juicier that is? See how much pigment you get, how much... Oh, I just love the effect of alcohol markers. It just looks so airy and beautiful. When I refilled these, you might have noticed that you can take out the nibs, and then I refill the ink holder inside. So I refill that first, and then I also put a little bit of ink on the nibs just to give those a bit more extra juice and life as well. But theoretically, all you need to fill in is the barrel and then give your markers a chance to just absorb the ink as needed. I find that's a much more effective way of refilling than just refilling through the nibs, because the nibs are slow. Oh no, 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 disaster has struck. So this is what happens when you need to replace a nib. Even though I added more ink to this, because the nib was so dry, it does not spread the ink. So this I will have to replace the nib, but then I will be able to use the ink. I'm afraid that might be the case for this one as well, because this one was dry as heck. Actually, that one seems... Nope, that one's good. So this one completely came back to life, even though the nibs were dry. This end still gonna be dry, so you gotta let it sit for some time. And then the same thing with this guy. I'm going to use this end. Oh, and they're practically so different. This is a very nice color. I really like the blues. So I will go fix this guy and then I will be back. We are back in business, baby. Now, the sad reality is with this marker, because I only had chisel nibs, now it is a double chisel nib pen. Now it is back in business. What's cool about the refill inks is they themselves can be used as an art supply, not just as refills, because, well, it's alcohol ink. And I know that there's artists out there that use alcohol ink for all sorts of cool abstract pieces. So, I mean, Copic ink is a wonderful ink to work with. So I'm sure you can find more ways to use it than just outside of using it to refill your pens. Okay, now for the exciting part, which is the brand new art supply for me, which are these Acrylic paint markers, which it does sound like you can shake to activate. So I'm just gonna jump right in. Okay, so the nibs are white. So it says shake well with cap secured, and then you shake and then it looks like you press down to activate. So I'm going to press down. I'm just gonna press down a bunch of times. Oh, I'm starting to see the ink come out. So now I'm wondering, does it make sense to just hold it or to do it a bunch? I never quite know with paint markers. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the ink has now reached the end. So now we can do a swatch. And oh my goodness. I mean, it is a fine tip. Very, very fine tip. So I'm sure this would be great with being alongside markers if you want to add more details. But as for its own tool, it's not going to cover a lot of ground as a lot of wider nibbed pens are. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, instead of making you sit through that grueling process of activating each one, I am going to switch to a time lapse, and then we will revisit once I've done all the swatches. And I return. Okay, so overall, I'm actually very impressed with the ink. For the opaqueness, their light colors, the white and yellow, are almost completely, hold on, there you go, now you can see it. They're almost completely solid and opaque. One thing I have noticed, which is going to be hard to tell from video, is these are very thick paint. In the sense that if you look at it from the side, it's actually quite a thick layer of paint. And I didn't put that thick of a layer. Like, I didn't go over it a bunch, as you can see, especially with the red. I avoided it because it does eat up the paper a little bit if you scratch a bunch, because they're very fine tipped. The only criticism that I can say is this is a very primary basic set. So it's really good for decoration. But as for using in art pieces, this is an extremely limited color range. Even with the other sets, like the primary or the pastel, it's the same colors but lighter. And even if they have the darker versions, the same colors but darker. And I'm finding that's the case with most art paint markers, acrylic paint markers out there, because most brands are able to produce a small range. I'm not as familiar if there's brands out there that have a large range of colors, but I know with paint acrylic markers, these would fall more in the crafting category than the art category, unless you strictly use these range of colors. In the sense that it's quite limited, especially if you want to combine it with other Copic markers, because they have such a wide range of colors in their alcohol markers. And also, their primary set doesn't come with white. You have to buy the white separate, or you have to buy the earth tone set, which has white and black, which is kind of a disappointment. I feel like with all of these sets, they should come with a white and black. But I guess that they were limiting each set to 6 colors each. Yeah, just keep that in mind. If you're buying them, you'll probably have to buy white and black separately, or buy multiple sets. Which, I mean, if you like paint markers, I think these ones are perfectly fine. They're great for adding detail. They're very solid and opaque. I mean, I'm gonna do a couple more swatches. Very eager to see how the yellow holds up, because the yellow to me seems really opaque, and yellow is almost always the most transparent in almost all art mediums that I've ever used. So let's swatch, let's test. Oh my god. I'm gonna say this right now. I am extremely impressed with that. Even with the blue, there's the tiniest little bit of translucency in the middle. But I mean, that's really opaque. I'm gonna test the white next, because white, again, is almost always a little bit translucent, mixes with the colors underneath. I've made sure each one is completely dry. And I'm barely pressing. I'm just doing a quick, light little sketch over. And again, wow. Yeah, I mean, hey, that's really impressive. If you work with paint markers or really any medium, you know, I'm gonna change my tune a little bit. I was a little bit too critical from the start. I think these are absolutely incredible quality, and they hold up to their advertising, they hold up to their reputation. Again, the lack of colors. If I had to create a con list, the lack of colors, which, I mean, if these markers are popular enough, I'm sure they will grow their color range. And also the tips. I'm not a big fan of the tips. I mean, again, this is a good fine tip for doing little details, but as for a tool itself, it's, you know, it's very rigid. It's very, very small, so you can't cover a lot of area with it without eating up the paper underneath. So I think these are intended solely for adding details or writing. They absolutely excel. I mean, that is some incredible results right there. First, I'm gonna do some quick swatches of my new QOR watercolors, and then I'm going to go into a time lapse where I'm going to do a swatch of all 36 of these paints from Daniel Smith. And I'm really excited because these all look very, very beautiful, and I cannot wait to try them out and see what they're all like. I mean, this is like Christmas Day, let me tell you. Okay, so we are gonna start with the Bohemian Green, because that's the one I'm most excited to try out. That's not true. I'm equally excited to try out both. Now, one thing I immediately noticed while pouring out this paint is it's a lot thicker than the other one. The other one was quite smooth, settled down into the pan. This one I had to really press into the pan with a brush, so it's quite gloopy. We're gonna do a swatch, and oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that. Okay. It is actually a really good quality because it settles out quite flat, which means you can do pretty decent washes with this color, but still get a little bit of that earthy effect. So now I'm going to do, so that was wet on dry. Now I'm gonna do a little wet wash and do some wet on wet to see how it reacts. Okay. It's very yellowy for a green. I was expecting it to be way more on the green side. I mean, it looks really green in the half pan, in the tube, but when you actually put it on the paper, it gets quite yellow. But when it dries far more brown, which works for me. You're able to get some pretty cool effects with it still. That's pretty, I do see me using this pigment quite a lot now, because I've been leaning more into using green with watercolor, something I've avoided for a long time because I've never been a big fan of green. Now for the next pigment, the Payne's Gray Violet hue. Okay. Oh my god, that is a deep color. It's much less purple on the paper. It does feel more Payne's Gray with a tint of purple. I mean, it's about as accurately described as I expected. I will say my overall impression with these paints, I'm really impressed with the quality. I mean, the pigments are very, like, you get a lot of pigment. It's a very rich paint. The texture itself, I mean, it's very artist grade quality. So, I mean, if you use watercolors and you've been considering trying out QOR, I mean, I would suggest it. Again, it is pretty expensive per tube, but I mean, these tubes, this tube, which is not even that big of a tube, will last me a lifetime. And this I think was about just under 20 bucks. Okay, so now we're going to do a wet on wet for the Payne's Gray, not Perylene. I keep going to call it Perylene. And with these ones is you really don't need a lot. I mean, it's very intense without having a lot of paint on your brush, which is why I mean it when I say these will last you a long time. They will last you a long time. Okay, I'm gonna let these dry, and then I'm just gonna flip right into the time lapse and get right into doing a swatch sheet for all of the Daniel Smith watercolors, and I will let you know my impression on those. My initial impression on these watercolors is quite positive. I really like the swatch sheets, having the little dot cards. I feel like you have plenty enough to test out each watercolor and see what each pigment has to offer. I was also pleasantly surprised that there was some shimmer and metallic colors within there, which is really awesome to see what our earth really can provide for us artists. This is a really good option if you just want to test out Daniel Smith watercolors before committing to a full tube. I think this is a great practice for any brand. A lot of brands offer these little dot cards, and I think they're an amazing option. I'm quite happy with the amount that they give on these dot cards. I was a little concerned at first, but you get plenty to make a full swatch sheet and still have enough to play with the pigments and see how they interact with each other afterwards. Thank you so much for watching.